Call to order the meeting of October 5th, or the open session meeting of the Planning Board. First order of business is actually to approve the agenda. I need a motion for that effect.
Move to approve the agenda for October 5th.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item next, a couple of brief announcements. We have, as you may know, a reading file of things that happen in our adjacent areas, such as public hearings from town of Groton or Littleton and whatnot. I would encourage you once in a while to check with Heather on those matters. What you've done as a board recently is kind of delegated that to me, where if I see something that needs board attention, I bring it forward. And generally, I have yet to see, other than public information, any of the notices from other towns on goings-on. So I would encourage you maybe once a month or twice a month to go through that reading file.
Is it located here on the here?
Right, and I check it all the time, and if it's anything that is really needs an action by us or an opinion by us. But it's all generally the goings-on of our adjacent neighbors.
Would it add a huge amount of effort if it was put on OneDrive or something, so we could just click into it outside?
Well, it actually would.
Town hall? Okay.
You know, and again, Heather knows now that we've got a professional, and we did before, but I mean, Heather knows, looking at these, what's important and what needs to get brought to the attention of the full board.
Yeah.
They've only, when they do zoning changes, they have to notify abutting towns.
Mm-hmm.
Site plan approval, site plans, stuff like that. They
Yeah.
get notified you butters, you
Yes.
notify the abutting towns.
Yeah.
For example-
It's just, I'm out of town by 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll be back in town by 5:30
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah, so I
But
mean, unless you're really concerned with
Yeah.
whatever site plan that the town of
Yeah.
Littleton's looking at. I mean, the zoning changes maybe, if anything comes up,
Yeah.
I think Littleton's
Well,
going through.
here's the important point of all this conversation, because these documents are going to generally, now that we have Mark on board, and we'll talk about that in a minute, these are all going to come addressed to him like this one did,
Okay.
because he is quote-unquote our professional planner. So we are, as you know, the way I explained it to him is you're in charge 29 days a month, and we're in charge 1 day a month, unless we have more than one meeting a month. Okay? And he will keep us informed and keep us out of, as we used to say in other jobs, our job is to keep you from going to jail.
I appreciate that.
So, seeing as I've over-explained that one,
That doesn't seem to happen very often. But
No.
I like that.
so anyway, that's that on the various notifications coming in from other towns. I have before me September 7th minutes. I need a motion to approve same.
Actually, Mr.
I
Chair.
just had a
Yeah. Go ahead.
correction.
Yeah?
I want to.
Yeah.
On the,
Well, I need a motion to address the issue.
Motion to approve the minutes
Okay, do I have a second?
from September.
second,
Second, discussion?
I had a small correction on the second page, just past the midway. Sue Kennedy asked if the board wanted to bring another zoning article to town meeting for the zoning concerns in case the revisions don't pass. It wasn't whether or not it passed. I just thought we could do separate articles that weren't addressed in the bylaw. I don't know how somebody wants to state that.
Can you just, want to just strike the last 5 words in
Yeah.
case the revisions don't
Okay.
pass?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm perfectly fine with me. I've got nothing of substance, Mr. Chair. Just 2 corrections, if I may. I think your last.
Well, on your question, are you questioning the verbiage of the question, or do you want an answer to your question?
No, we already discussed it. It just, yeah. I had been suggesting separate zoning articles on things that aren't addressed, if we wanted to do it, get them all done.
Right.
But so,
But the
yeah,
minutes,
I think just crossing out that last section would be fine. Or I could give a lengthy explanation. Maybe cross the whole thing.
so you want to amend the minutes to redact the paragraph of Sue Kennedy asking the board,
Yeah,
et cetera? Is that your request? Is that your amendment? You want to amend to exclude that paragraph?
about, you could you could exclude the whole paragraph, because otherwise it's not gonna make much sense without that lengthy.
Well, it goes to the question, did that happen, though? I mean, because if
No,
it did, then it's
it-
an accurate reflection of the minutes.
It didn't.
It's simply a question.
I was suggesting, once again, that things that are not included in this bylaw, I believe that we wanted this to go through by itself without a lot of disagreement, but the marijuana.
Yeah, but
bylaw
here's
and
my
the
point,
others-
here's my point to the minutes, though. The fact that you asked the question,
No, I didn't ask in case it did not go through.
okay.
I did ask,
Okay, so this is a misstatement of,
right.
okay, so let me address, I need a motion to accept the amendment.
I'm confused.
As
Is
stated.
this strike the whole paragraph? Or?
The amendment is to redact the statement of Ms. Sue Kennedy asked if the board wanted to bring another zoning article to town meeting for other zoning concerns in case revisions do not pass. She wants that redacted.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, unanimous. Now, on the original amendment, or on the original motion of the minutes,
If I may, Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. J was not in the room, but Mr. Fay might have been in the room.
actually, I had that corrected on my
Okay.
copy.
Yeah, you
But
were
good
fine.
catch. Well, you're good.
And,
You're good.
and there's just a space missing on the,
Yep.
at the end. I rarely, if ever, have anything substantive.
Yeah. So, actually, I stand corrected by myself, because it's not corrected on this copy. However, would you accept a pen and ink change to correct the spelling of Mr. Fay?
I just don't want Mr. Fay to get 20 years from now, somebody.
We need to give Mr. Fay all credit that is,
You made that comment to me.
like Nixon said, not the blame, just the credit.
It was in the end of a sentence, so that's why I couldn't find it.
What's funny is, this came out of the printer with this on top, and that's the first word I saw.
Okay. So, the motion is now to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Unanimous. I'd say that was easy, but it wasn't. Okay. Kevin, it's a good thing your dad taught me well, I gotta tell you.
He was a good man. Still some all up on the conversation.
You are wearing the shorts.
Yeah, he really did. Taught me well. Here you go, Heather. Okay, we have an action the board has to take and vote upon in that we need to formally vote to ask the Board of Selectmen to post the quote vacancy of Jen Gibbons. She, as you know, resigned, so we need to publicly put that out there. And of course, the Public Affairs Office is Robert, and Robert will do that once we send an email based on the vote tonight. So I need a motion to formally post the vacancy of Vice Chair within the Planning Board and ask Robert to put that out there.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, unanimous. Thank you. Heather, you'll get with Carly and just send that email, et cetera. Yeah. Okay, lastly, before we get to town planner and then on
Send
to...
flowers or anything as a thank you for her service.
I'm sorry?
Jen Gibbons.
Oh, well, we already accepted her resignation, so
Okay.
beyond that, and again, certainly I hope to bring her back. You know, there was a wealth of institutional knowledge that went with her.
Yeah.
All the way back, again, as I often quote my 20 years, she was with me 20 years ago. And again, many of the townspeople know she knows what she's doing in planning. So I hope to get her back soon, but until then. So, I need to pay a bill of WB Mason. I need a motion to approve I thought this was $13 and not,
There's actually two of them in there.
oh, okay. Yeah, $34.59. And what about the $4.55?
Yeah, they're both, the other one came a few days later. coming in the mail on Monday.
Okay.
We can put it on the next month if
Okay.
you want, but.
So I have two, yeah, to pay them $34.59 and $4.55. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, discussion? None, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. And with,
Well, actually,
of
we
course,
don't
signed
have-
by the chair?
We don't have a budget.
Well, we have to approve the fact that we got the goods, is kind of what
What-
this is. I know we don't, that's,
What is it? Is
It's,
it passed through, is it getting?
no, it's pens and paper and W.B. Mason. I mean,
So,
who
I could
but
get-
W.B. Mason?
I could get pens from here? I
Who-
brought my own.
Who knew? I know. I'll be in tomorrow for my,
Let's not get lost in that hole right now.
no, I won't. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, all you folks at home. All right.
Exactly. Let's get the mark.
So again, for signature by the chair as previously determined by the
Yes.
board. Yep. These things, it appears in the minutes, that's what accounting needs to substantiate the payment. And today is the
Fifth.
5th.
None of us actually know the guy. The people in TV land.
No, I did
Spell my
that
name.
for him.
You go, give that to Heather if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, once more then, the last thing I've got, which is a future item I want to make you aware of, and then we'll move on to town planner and the public hearing. The
Fun with flyers.
town, as you know, has New England Studios right at Fort Devens, and I've received a request from a citizen to agenda the discussion of zoning and/or how that affects planning within the town when a studio comes in and wants to, quote, make a movie. And that can be great, it can sometimes be an issue. We need to look at the issue as far as when a movie studio comes in and says to a homeowner, okay, I'm in a residential district, and all of a sudden you've made it into a commercial movie lot. There are some issues, and I'd like to just advise you that I want to agenda that, and I need your approval, of course, to do so in the very near future for discussion. It's a subject that,
It's zoning because what they might be using commercial purposes for.
well, you might go into an A1 residential neighborhood, and all of a sudden you've got all kinds of stuff going on, and it's no longer the nice, quiet little A1 residential neighborhood that you, I mean, there are concerns here that need to be addressed and aired.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be similar to a lot being built? They're not doing any explosives? or-
Well, we don't have a district that speaks to, for example, okay, we can allow movie making. We don't have anything.
Chairman,
Judy, you want to
does anyone know,
come forward?
several towns in Massachusetts have adopted basically a licensing bylaw for that
Okay.
kind of activity.
Yeah,
Because it's not really a land use, and
Yeah.
that it's sort of a temporary thing, and you're right, it can be very disruptive. But
right.
it's typically a licensing type of issue handled by the selectman or the town administrator. And I think it's great if you want to talk about it. But if you want some examples of what other towns have done, I can give
Yeah.
it to you.
Well, I think, again, I bring it up to the board because,
Sure.
number one, I need to respond to a citizen request of the
Sure.
planning board to address the issue
Yeah.
to some degree and see where it takes us.
Along with what Ms. Barron was saying, I see this as a role of the selectmen. If they want our input, they can ask,
Right.
as opposed to.
Well, then
I agree. If you want to put it
therefore,
on the agenda, I.
Absolutely.
let's
I'd
discuss
vote
it,
for it.
and then at
Okay,
some
perfect.
point, the selectmen will
Do
say,
you need a
what do you
motion to
think?
Put it on the agenda,
Right.
so moved.
I think it's a
Okay.
great idea, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's, if you have a licensing provision of some type, then you can charge a fee for an application, and now you can cover police issues and so forth if those costs come up.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it's a good point, I mean, you
Yeah.
have it in your backyard, so.
right, right,
Or your front yard.
And-
Yes,
and,
depends on how you look at it.
right.
Second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Unanimous. Heather, if you would, we'll agenda this at some point in the very near future, okay, for discussion.
Does it say who? Does the resident?
I got it as an email. I think it was Ron DiFilippo from the ZBA. I'm pretty sure. I'll look back on.
From the ZBA? Or
No, just
from-
as a
As a
citizen.
citizen?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Just wonder,
yeah.
so it's on next month's agenda?
Well, right now, I think if we finish up October, it can go on November's, and we'll decide that depending on how busy we get or don't get.
Right.
I mean, it's an issue we want to address in the near future.
I'm curious, since Judy has, she said some suggested text, if we could get that prior to then, because we're probably going to be.
Well, actually, I'm going to ask
I'll send it to Mark.
Ron, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask Mark to do that
Yeah.
as our town planner, which, by the way, is our next item.
You didn't get the memo?
Before we go to Judy on ZBA, ZBL, actually. Got to get my alphabet right. I'd like to, again, formally introduce and welcome Mark Ashenbo, our official, quote, town planner. I have a bio, but it seems to me a bit rude to introduce and read a bio when the man is sitting right here. So, welcome again, Mark, and thank you for serving the town. Comments?
Yes.
Welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I prepared a short memo to introduce myself and to talk about some of the projects that I have identified that need to be initially addressed.
Okay?
One more?
Yep.
Did you get it?
Okay. Yep, so a little bit of history. For the last few years, I was working as basically a circuit ride planner out of the Nashua River Watershed Association in Groton, helping the towns in the region, the Nashua River Watershed area, with bylaws that protect water quality and stormwater management and that sort of thing. I was also working part-time for the town of Ashby, a very small town west of Townsend, which has a very good planning board, and they're trying to do a lot of good things with what they have. And yeah, it's exciting to be here. Ayer is definitely a very dynamic town. I would say small city, actually, in terms of the land uses and type of economy that the town has. So what I would like to do, and the last week, I've been here for a week and 2 days, I've gone through the files and gone through the proposed bylaw and the old bylaw and a few other planning documents. And I've identified a few, I think, priority items to address over the next few months. And what I would like to do for the next meeting that we have on October 19th, which is a special meeting for another issue, but it won't take me long, is to go over a draft work plan, which will include what the products would be and a rough timeline of completing those projects. And I think the first priority is a solar energy overlay district bylaw, based on the history in the town with that land use. We might also think about incorporating small-scale wind energy into that. I'm going to consider that. So, that's a type of bylaw I've experienced writing for the town of Ashby. And I will be looking to prepare that, and I'm hoping that can also be dovetailed into the full zoning bylaw update that Judy will be talking about. The other item that I saw that I believe is deficient is rules and regulations for the planning board. Not site plan regs, but the basic procedural rules about planning board functions and timelines and the basic state law procedures, and put those down on paper. Also, I'd like to try to improve some on the interdepartmental plan review process. So when a site plan or a subdivision comes in, typically engineering reviews it and a few other Board of Health and Conservation Commission. But we want to tighten that up because it seems that in the past there have been a few things that have slipped. So we will be working to try to formalize that procedure so that everything is very punctual and meets the law, and everything happens according to plan, so to speak. What I would also like to do, starting with new applications that come in, is to prepare a staff report so that you get that in advance of the hearing for any given project. So in the staff report, I'll talk about what the applicant is proposing to do, what the zoning and regulations say about it, items for discussion. There could be some outstanding items and issues that, you know, they didn't identify or that I've identified or some other agency has identified. You know, so sort of a way to guide the discussion of the planning board with the applicants and amongst ourselves so that we expedite the process of plan review and approval. And lastly, on the priority list is, I understand that the subdivision regulations are fairly old and in need of update. And I'll be working on those too. And I'm under the understanding that the DPW, the engineer over there, has also been taking a look at the physical standards for roads and drainage and all that sort of thing. So we'll be looking to overhaul the subdivision regulations. So at the meeting on the 19th, I'll have another document that will outline these in a little more detail, talk about a timeline. But I would also like to, you know, get feedback from the board. You have the local institutional knowledge of the town of Ayer, which I do not yet have. And so I appreciate learning more about the town. And if you have any suggestions for things that have fallen through the cracks or things that need to be improved, please let me know. And you can contact me anytime up in my office. And,
82.
Oh, my extension? I don't even...
8218.
Okay. See, I don't even have it memorized yet. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One thing I need to do before we again go into the, and this is very important actually, October 19th is a date that we need to hold a public hearing for marijuana regulation. The town is moving forward in that licensing process where we need, the planning board per se has to hold a public hearing before it can move to special town meeting approval. So the Board of Selectmen are going to conduct a special town meeting in that regard, but before they do that, to comply with regulation on the matter, we need to hold a public hearing on October 19th. Now, this is a time-sensitive issue and has been just recently brought to us by advice of counsel. So I would ask that you make yourself available to that, and I'm going to now ask Heather to go ahead and, once we get the vote, publish a public hearing for October 19th on marijuana regulation. So I need a motion to that effect, if you would.
I'll make the motion, but I would also tell you that that's my Thursday night working night.
True, true.
So I'll try and be here.
I can only hope that we get three of us here, and
Are you suggesting 6:15?
yeah. So I need the motion to post a public hearing on October 19th for marijuana regulation.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second discussion. There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So again, Heather, if you would
6:15.
let the selectmen know to publish that article in the paper. Again, public hearing requirements.
That was done today.
Good. That's moving at the speed of business. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Judy Barrett. Welcome
Hi,
back.
how are you?
I'd like to now ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice for the zoning bylaw, and then we will ask Judy to,
First put down now.
You want me to read this?
yeah,
stuff?
if you would, yep.
When did I become clerk?
You've been clerk for about a year or two now.
No.
You missed
When
it.
Jen left?
You missed it.
Yeah, I did.
No, she was vice chair. We made you clerk.
Oh, good for you. Pursuant to GL 40A S.5, the Ayer Planning Board will hold a public hearing at 6:15 on October 5th, 2017, on the proposed revision of the Ayer zoning bylaw. Proposed zoning bylaw is updated and reorganized, I apologize. And it includes the establishment of a new district, the mixed-use transition district. It also changes the name, heavy industrial district to industrial district, and designates the planning board as a special permit granting authority and the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. The proposed zoning bylaw clarifies the requirements and streamlines the permitting process for open space recreational development. Additionally, revisions have been made to section 9.5.5, size of signs, section 5.2, table of use regulations, and section 6.2, table of dimensional requirements. District boundaries affected by any aspect of the proposed zoning bylaw are shown on the proposed zoning map.
Now, again, it's important to know that as a result of the impetus on the town to include, quote, solar, to potentially include marijuana regulation, and an overall need for our new planner to thoroughly have enough time to go through this zoning bylaw and bring it up to date. Now, Judy Barrett has been working on this off and on for 20 years.
8, 9 years, something like that.
So we really need to get this done right. And the selectmen have asked your chairman to move it out, basically give the hearing its full 6-month length and breadth, because it's too important to do haphazardly. And I don't know that, I mean, again, just cleaning it up is one thing, but we have some pressing issues we need to include. And I dare say solar is one of them. I dare say marijuana regulation is one of them. And I also, more importantly actually than those things, the comments from our building commissioner have to be included. Our comments from our ZBA and town departments have to be included in this effort. And we have the time, so let's give it the full length and breadth of 6 months to get all of the public input. We will continue this public hearing month to month as needed to get it done. And again, that means we have now a deadline of March 2018, but then that puts it toward a special town meeting of its own. History has shown, and I've mentioned this before when we talk about the process, that this town tends to look at planning as a separate issue from everything else. If we bring it to the fall town meeting agenda this time, there are too many articles, there's a town reorganization, there's a whole bunch of things that are jumping up ahead in terms of priority in a lot of people's minds, and planning would take a back seat and run the risk of getting tabled again. We don't want that. I don't want it on the April or May spring annual town meeting for the same reason. I don't want it to get jammed in with the omnibus and then get tabled. I want to have, and the Board of Selectmen have given me their assurance that once we compile all of our input from our town departments and our planning director and our building commissioner, then we will hold a special town meeting, single issue items, and of course not to mention Judy's work over the years. So that's where we're at. So with that, yes.
I'm not real clear again. I know I have just felt that some of the deadlines for the solar and the marijuana and some of the others are real pressing. And it's been the view of the board that we wanted the zoning bylaw to finally get finished without controversy.
Right.
And I think some of these other issues are controversial.
Right.
Again, I'm wondering if we can do them at the same time, but do them in separate articles so that this can pass without...
Yes, I'm going to rely on the commiseration between Judy and Mark. Mark assures me that can be done.
It can. The only issue you've got is that the proposed bylaw in code structure is completely different from what you have now. So what you probably will want to do, and I defer to you on this, is if solar is critical, have a solar article that's ready to go before this, coded to your current bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
So if this goes down, I'm pointing at this, it's about this, if the comprehensive revision goes down, then at least you have the solar bylaw that will fit into what you have. That is going to be trickier than I think you may realize because of
Okay.
issues in the zoning. But anyway, then you can have this ready to go as the next article, and it will include the solar piece as a piece that you could pull out if it somehow people didn't want to pass the solar bylaw. We can set this up in a way that would be very easy to amend out, but it will be in there. So you can move the whole thing with that. But you need to think about sequencing it so that you don't lose what you really want. But if you get everything, it's all going to work.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying? Because this is organized very differently from what you have now.
And the marijuana wouldn't be actually,
Well-
is that going to actually be in?
No, the
zone in a
foresight,
certain area?
the
or just
foresight on
licensed?
the foresight on the marijuana issue, I think, can be fixed by way of a licensing issue with the Board of Selectmen. But in order for them to act on that, we need to have this public hearing on
Right.
October 19th.
Every town's going through this right now. Yeah.
Right.
And that's even
then-
more controversial, and again, my
Yeah.
fear is that if you do, we have a couple of controversial things that have deadlines that have to get done. But you don't want the solar to get hung up because of the marijuana, or this to get hung up, you know.
I just think it's a question of how you sequence it, and it's doable.
Mhm.
I've been through this in another town that had
Right.
stuff that they wanted to at least make sure they got if they didn't get their comprehensive revision. So you end up kind of duplicating the effort, but at least the town ends up covered.
Okay.
Good. So, Judy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we are opening this public hearing on the proposed zoning bylaw, and I thought it might be helpful to people if I just gave a little bit of background here on kind of what's happened and why we're here now and where we're hoping this will go. I think, Jamie, you kind of summarized it pretty well anyway, but just to background. In 2008, the town started a process of revising the zoning bylaw. There was a phase one request for proposals issued. Someone else worked on it, and there was a phase one bylaw that went to town meeting and was approved in 2009. Promptly thereafter, the board issued a second RFP for a phase two, which was really to implement the 2003 master plan, which I led. So it was near and dear to me, and I thought, boy, I'd really love to go back and work on that. What happened is that we discovered early on, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, we discovered early on that we were going to have to do more work than just master plan implementation issues. So it took a little longer to get through phase two. Phase two ended up being a whole rewrite, which is what you have now. And the board was going through a lot of changes, and so they decided to hold it. 2012, they wanted to take it to town meeting, and it was pretty clear that the board probably needed more time to digest the bylaw than that point. So in October, ironically, it was October 2012, the board decided to withdraw the article on town meeting floor and come back. And so now here we are 5 years later, trying to get this done. And I think that, the plan I think now is to go ahead and have this hearing and get everybody's concerns on the table, respond to those that you can, and be prepared to go to a town meeting in the spring, which, you need to be able to be comfortable with what you're doing. So that's kind of where we are in terms of the timeline.
Right.
So let me just tell you a little bit about what's in this, why to do this at all, and some of the things that are in the proposed bylaw. And I have not done a sort of section by section presentation here because it puts people to sleep. I love zoning. You probably love zoning, but a lot of people just find it very boring. So, why does any town update their zoning? Because zoning regulations just need to be clear, and they need to be internally consistent. They have to be reasonable, and they have to be capable of producing predictable results. I mean, if zoning does nothing else, you sort of want it to do all of that. And the reality is that over time, as zoning gets amended piecemeal, things start to fall out of whack. All of a sudden, little inconsistencies creep into a bylaw that nobody can see because they're looking at a section and not looking at the whole piece. So every town once in a while kind of goes through this, what I would call an omnibus revision. And then the other reason you do it is that even if your bylaw looks nice and is easy to navigate and so forth, law changes. It changes because of court decisions. It changes because the legislature decides to get involved and regulate things that they probably don't need to. But you need to make sure that your bylaw is consistent with the state law, or not inconsistent with it, I guess I should say. And then sometimes there are what I call glitches, that a bylaw that's just humming along fine, everything's okay, and there's a section that nobody's ever touched. And then all of a sudden an application comes along under a section no one's ever looked at, and you find out it doesn't work. And so those kinds of conditions always tend to prompt towns to update their zoning as well. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know that was there. I can't tell you how many times I've worked on zoning where part of the challenge is just helping people understand what their bylaw says today, because they don't always know. How could you possibly know everything that's in the bylaw? So what things tend to sort of drive this? Well, one is a planning process, and if nothing else, zoning ought to be consistent with your plan, which was the whole idea behind the Phase 2 zoning effort back in 2009. You also want to make sure that your zoning supports new investment in the community. Sometimes people get very anxious about growth, and you can understand why. And yet at the same time, if the zoning really frustrates development that's good for the community, you lose out in that way too. So understanding how to sort of channel and invite the type of investment you want, zoning is a critical tool for doing that. Regulations that work for changes in commercial and industrial development. This is something that I've been in this field for 30 years, and this is one of the things that you see is that the whole sort of practice of business is different now, and so the needs are different, space needs are different, parking needs are different. Stormwater regulations have come into play that kind of affect the way you think about site plan review standards. So you need to kind of be thinking about these things and updating your zoning accordingly. A healthy town center is important. Some communities have found that zoning really ends up being a real impediment to the kind of town center that they want. And at the time that everything's fine and everything that's non-conforming is working, it's great. But then all of a sudden there's a recession, non-conforming things go away, now you've got vacant space, it's hard to reuse it. So just ensuring the health and vitality of a town center is something that tends to lead communities to take another look at their zoning. There are new residential development techniques. Open space residential development is not new today, it was new 25 years ago, but what is different is the way we think about OSRD. I hate to start falling back on alphabet soup, but you know what's going to happen, right? There are new ways of thinking about OSRD and kind of what we want for open space standards. I'll just give you an example. 25 years ago, when communities really started in earnest sort of thinking about how to regulate OSRD, people were very focused on what percentage of a site had to be kept in open space. That was sort of the big conversation piece. But it took sort of a generation of experience with OSRDs to realize that the percentage isn't the only thing that matters. It's also where it is and how it's on the site and how accessible is it to the people who are going to live in the development. So qualitative standards began to really show up, I think, in the way we think about OSRD that you didn't find as much in the first generation of cluster zoning. Did you have a question?
I was going to say, now with the implementation of Open Fleet Streets approach to OSRD and things like that,
Absolutely.
we have the overlay on top of that of, actually, you know what, I want to go from parcel A to parcel C.
Right.
Parcel B doesn't let me through.
Right.
Because of the way we did it.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Can't get the kids to school without a bus, doesn't work.
Exactly. So another thing that's sort of, I think, been a catalyst for a lot of zoning updates is the aging population. There are lots of communities in Massachusetts where the residential development regulations very much favor the four-person family, the two parents, kids. And aside from the fact that our households don't really look like that anymore, we have an aging population for whom a lot of residential development regulations simply don't work. So communities are having to think about, well, how do you ensure the safety and the health and the ability of your seniors to stay in the community as they age, and what does it mean to zone for aging in community? And then just generally tools for kind of qualitative, higher quality development, which was one of the things we talked about a lot in the last master plan, and we talk about when we worked with the planning board on the 2009-2010 revision, is just don't be afraid to ask for quality. I think sometimes communities that are really struggling to have a good tax base and struggling to sort of have residents have the best that they can in terms of public services and so forth, sometimes they'll sort of take anything that promises not to generate school children and promises to generate tax revenue. And that's fine to a point, but when you're not getting the quality that you deserve, it really can sort of over time kind of erode the functioning, if you will, and the operation of a business district. So qualitative standards around landscaping, around site planning, around architecture, these are the kinds of things that tend to trigger communities to say, oh my God, we need to look at our zoning. So that's just sort of stuff that's in the background. So the other thing that tends to drive communities to update their zoning is to say, well, we don't want a master plan that sits on a shelf. I heard that here in 2002. I've heard it in the 30 communities I've done master plans in. It's every planning board member's worst nightmare is that we're going to spend a lot of money on a master plan and it's not going to go anywhere. Well, the fact is that zoning is probably the most important tool at a planning board level that you can have in place to implement your master plan. And this update that I'm really hoping you're going to be able to take the town meeting in the spring, it kind of completes the task of implementation from the previous plan and will make it much easier for you to implement anything that comes out of the planning effort that's underway. So that's sort of another consideration. And then, other things, some of which you're very familiar with, is energy efficiency and alternate energy kind of have become more factors in development. We have different flood maps today. We've all seen the issues that are going on with flooding, and it's kind of leading communities to rethink their environmental standards. Remaining open space and natural resources really need better protection. Well, there's a couple of ways to think about that. How do you protect them from unwanted encroachment on one hand, and yet how do you guide the sort of impetus for investment in your community so that you get the growth you want in another hand. And then the other thing that I hear a lot of now is just sort of policies around having healthy communities. That this is becoming sort of a topic du jour in zoning as well. So with that, challenges that we kind of have needed to work on. When my young colleague, who's not so young anymore, neither am I, my young colleague Angela and I started working on this bylaw, one of the first things we did was look at the Attorney General's review letter on the Phase 1 revision. And it's a very conditional approval. And whenever I see that, I go, oh, we really need to look at what's here. And that was when we realized that we have to redo this whole thing. So the board was very good back in 2009 about kind of understanding that there were issues that needed to be addressed, agreed to go along with kind of an overall scoping. So this Phase 2 bylaw that you have addresses the various text and format errors that are in the bylaw now from Phase 1 and from before Phase 1, and then tries to implement some of the land use objectives of the master plan. And then, implementing new or revised land use policies often reveals other issues that were not previously identified, and that's nobody's fault. That's just kind of what happens when you start getting into a zoning rewrite. And a good example is parking requirements for single-use development should not be the same as parking requirements for mixed use. And those are the sorts of things that you start to see and really have to think about when you're pulling apart a zoning bylaw and trying to put it back together. So those were some of the challenges that we encountered and worked on in the Phase 2 piece. So, substantive changes. People often ask about this. Well, there are these districts. One is the mixed-use transition district and the downtown business district, and really kind of completely redone. Mixed-use transition, of course, is new entirely. Downtown business has been kind of overhauled. Parking requirements were overhauled and updated. We've tried to make the open space development bylaw a more effective and flexible one. Zoning for affordable housing is really kind of key. This, of course, is another thing that's caused a lot of communities to look at their zoning too, is just how are we providing for affordability. Changing the Aquifer Protection District Special Permit Granting Authority, because right now what you have, frankly, is inconsistent with Chapter 40A. And then having landscaping standards for non-residential development. Again, getting back to the whole need for qualitative standards so that you get nice stuff in your town, which you certainly deserve. So those are sort of, I think, the big changes in the proposed draft. So where are we now with this? The board needs a supportive coalition. I know you're going to be doing more information and outreach and aiming for spring of 2018. I think some of the challenges you're going to face between now and then, just to to sort of be clear about that, is that here we go. A couple, not many, but a couple of the comments that I received from town departments for changes are policy issues.
Did you get building commissioner's comments?
I got them from Carly, yes. And Carly was very helpful. She put everything into a document, and I actually sent it back to her with my response.
Good,
every one of them.
Yeah, I've been tracking that.
But a couple of them, are policy issues. And I said, I'm not here to make policy changes. But I think what I'm saying to the board is just know that there are policy issues, and some of them were fine, and I just made the changes that were purely technical or whatever. But a good example that comes to mind was a comment about accessory apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta tell you, because I've been involved with zoning reform for 18, 19 years now. When I started working on the zoning reform work group, I didn't have any gray hair, so that I'll tell you something. I'm not blonde. This
My
is all
hair was
white.
black, right?
It was dark brown. You know, let me tell you what's coming, just so people can be thinking about it. Whether it's this year or next year or 5 years from now, I don't really care. But 3 of our neighboring states in New England have all changed their zoning to tell communities you can't deny accessory apartments. New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut. It's coming, and it's in both zoning reform proposals in the legislature. I don't know what's going to happen with them, but it would be irresponsible of me to say just forget about accessory apartments because it's coming. So you have to think about: do you want to just pretend it's not coming, or do you want to try to get ahead of the game now and actually have some standards, which I don't really think you have today. But that was an example of something where I felt like I'm not touching this one yet. I think the board probably needs time to think about it. But then many of the other comments from your staff were helpful because they're dealing with the bylaw every day, and so that was good. And I would encourage you to to continue to do that.
Okay. Now we're going to.
Apartment basically a mother-in-law.
No, see, they're two different things. Accessory apartment really is a separate dwelling unit, but it can't be. You can't separate it from the principal use. The key difference between a 2-family dwelling and an accessory apartment is accessory by definition. So someone can't come along and make a condominium out of a principal use and an accessory use. If it's a 2-family dwelling, you can. The building code treats it as 2-family because they have to.
That's the most applicable part of the code.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
The building code does not treat an in-law apartment the same way as it treats, as I understand it. I'm not a building code expert, but my understanding is it's not the same because you don't have a complete separation of the in-law unit from accessory. In-law also restricts who can live in them, accessory does not. So there are big differences, and I want to just be very honest and transparent about that with people. But it's not in-law apartments that legislatures are saying you can't ban. It's accessory apartments, and I think that a lot of this is just around back to this whole issue of aging in communities. What does it mean to provide for people as they age? Accessory apartments are a fairly innocuous way to provide for small housing units in traditional neighborhoods, but they also, for older people, provide a way to generate income so they can afford to stay in their home. So there's a lot of controversy about this, and I understand that, and I think that was a concern from I think it was from the building inspector. I respect the concern, but as a planning consultant, I got to tell you, I think you need to be prepared for this instead of just assuming it's not coming.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Before I move on, I'd like to ask any public input on the matter. Any questions from?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Kevin. If you could identify yourself for the record and the people at home.
Kevin Horgan, 16 Madigan Lane in here.
Your question?
There was a draft for the proposed changes. Thank you for not going through it section by section. Have there been any changes to that draft?
The draft that is on file with the town clerk is almost the same as the draft from 2010 and 2012. I went in and did some light editing to it, and I did formalize making the planning board the special permit granting authority. We brought this up in 2009.
Right.
But never really got any clear resolution on it. So that is in the draft, but the draft is substantially the same. The only other thing that I did is I tried to tighten up in sections that require a special permit or site plan review. The bylaw tends to be very prescriptive about exactly what people have to submit, and you don't have to do that in your zoning. If you've got administrative rules and regulations, you can say we need 10 copies of whatever, and it's got to have a North Star on the plan. That stuff doesn't need to be in the zoning bylaw. I was very careful not to take too much of that out because I didn't know what admin rules you had. So there's a little light editing like that, but nothing substantive. There's no substantive difference.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Kevin.
As it specifically relates to frontage, is there any changes?
I don't believe there. I have not made any changes to it since the 2009 draft. 2009, none of those standards were changed.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do, again, based on the ability to have our professional planner, Mark Ashenbo, go through, and I know you will be commiserating going forward. So First of all, I have to establish the fact that we're going to continue the public hearing on our regularly scheduled meeting schedule, which means for me, November 2nd. And then the important point to remember going forward is if whoever chairs going forward, don't close the meeting until we get her done. Continue the public hearing until, and then we have to close it out in March. But now we've got November, December, January, February to get this done. I am quite sure that is ample time to consolidate all of the comments brought forward so far. And then at some point very soon, Mark will have a final presentation, and again, with your input as well, to the final article that moves forward to, again, a special town meeting to the Board of Selectmen. So, Judy, I thank you very much
No
for your...
problem.
For your yeah, I haven't I'm just saying thank you.
I can say thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments from the board? Sue?
I'm fairly new, but I have heard that when this was previously brought up, there was a lot of controversy. No?
I didn't see, I was
What
at
was
the town
controversial?
meeting. I was at the town meeting in
That's why I wondered
2012,
why
and there were
I'm
some
not seeing
questions.
anything.
There were a couple of questions that were asked that the planning board member who was presenting it had trouble answering.
Do you know what those questions were?
An example was, why are we requiring bicycle parking in the downtown area?
Okay.
I specifically remember that comment.
Because it's the right thing to do.
I remember that comment well.
Is that what they said? I don't know.
There was someone who was concerned that the bylaw was implying, I can almost reconstruct her words verbatim, that the proposed bylaw was implying that people need to change the way they live. That perhaps people should be driving less and walking or bicycling more, and there was this underlying concern that perhaps the zoning bylaw was promoting a lifestyle that's different from the way many people choose to live. And it was hard for the planning board member who wanted to present the bylaw to respond to that kind of question. There weren't that many questions at town meeting. There wasn't that much talk. It was hard for, were you there? I think you were probably at that town meeting. It was difficult for the planning board member to respond to questions and didn't really want any help responding to them. So I think people kind of had the sense that maybe some more time was needed on it, and so the board withdrew the zoning. It didn't go to a vote. It was withdrawn on the floor.
Yeah. That won't happen.
I mean, something like that might, that question, but what I guess I'm seeing is that there can be some detail that you hadn't given a lot of thought to.
I think people gave a lot of thought to it. It was that it was not, well, there was a problem with the presentation.
Okay.
That won't happen.
I'm trying to be careful.
With me. I can guarantee you.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I need a motion to continue the public hearing until November 2nd at 6:15.
Mr. Chairman, may
November 2nd being, say again?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
I apologize if I'm out of line. Now that this hearing has been published and
The public hearing is ongoing,
and open,
and we have 6 months to get it done. And then-
how does this apply? How do the new zoning laws apply to non-permitted applications? Does it apply
I don't follow your question. How do zoning bylaws apply to a non-permitted?
to an application
Application.
and process to the planning board?
Well, we go by current procedure until the law is changed.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think, Kevin, town meeting has to approve the bylaw,
Yes.
which won't happen until the spring of next year, April timeframe. After the bylaw is approved, it has to go to the state attorney general for acceptance. After it's accepted by the state attorney general's office, it becomes the law of the land, if you will.
But it's effective back to the date of town meeting.
But it's effective back to the date of town meeting. So the 6 month, if I'm out of line, Mr. Chair,
Right.
but just so you understand the procedural part of it, it's opening now. So if somebody puts an application in front of us now, the only applicable bylaw we can use is the current bylaw that's been adopted by the town. in whatever condition it's in, and whether or not it's applicable to the application coming to us. Is that fairly put?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep,
And I
follow
think-
up.
I think that was your question, right, Kevin?
It is, exactly,
Okay, thanks.
exactly my question, but
Okay,
my follow-up, in my limited understanding, is Chapter 40, Section 6, which goes back to the publication.
48, you mean the zoning act?
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes back to the publication, not necessarily to the acceptance.
For a special permit.
Building
yes.
or special permit, is what it says in
Building
section
permit
six.
not granted. Right, but
Building
but
or
building
special
permits
permit not granted.
not granted. Right.
So
What typical, I'm sorry, what, can you just be a little more specific about what your concern is?
my concern is someone who is in process, already has an application to the planning board
For what?
for air solar,
Solar.
elephant in the room.
And the frontage, you're suggesting that if I checked here, the frontage might be different.
Well, I know the frontage is different in the bylaw, but besides that, any change in the existing bylaw, will it, according to 40, Section 6, will it apply to someone who has not been issued a special or building permit? Because this hearing has been publicly advertised and opened.
no, there's no change. Public hearing is only the public hearing.
A party who wants to protect the existing zoning from the change has notice as of the publication of public hearing date to file a subdivision plan, a preliminary subdivision plan with the planning board, followed by a definitive plan, and can freeze the zoning on that property for several years. Or can file what's called a Form A plan, which is a plan that doesn't require subdivision approval, and at least freeze the use of the land. Not
But
necessarily-
if they do not do that, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if they do not do that, do the new zoning bylaws apply to them?
If zoning bylaw applies to any special permit that has not been granted,
The new zoning
Right.
bylaw?
It's a timing sequence
Comment?
question. He's asking a very specific timing question,
Right.
and that's a difficult question to answer.
I
And-
recommend that you refer this matter to town council.
Yeah, that's all. We go
Mark?
round and round and round, and I'm pretty sure we won't come up with, we'll all walk out having said the same words and not understanding what was said.
Refer this to
Thank
town
thank-
council.
Thank you. I would ask that is referred to town council.
Okay, if you could,
I don't have the specific answer.
send the board an email through Mark, and we'll address the issue formally. Mark, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask Judy, but in the case of an application for a site plan that has already been submitted, they've gone through some of the process.
Site plan is not a special permit.
Right. So,
If you have a site plan review, administrative site plan review,
mhm.
and you have to make a decision, typically under administrative site plan review within 30 or 45 days or something,
Timeline. Mhm.
Right.
you know, that project is going to go forward.
I'm
But the
just
application's
guessing
already been
what-
made.
what- if this is your question, that the solar might have some frontage issues which may be made more difficult by the newly published one, and
That's
I'm
one
not
of the issues, yes, correct.
So to get the building permit, if they don't have the correct frontage under this newly published?
I am not aware of a frontage change that would affect anything. That's all I can say. We didn't change dimensional
Criteria,
regulations.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't.
But I,
Okay, again, let me ask you to formulate your question through an email to the planning board, and we'll get Mark to run it through legal and
I think that's a good idea.
give you an official opinion.
thank you.
If you have something that's,
And that is to say, an official opinion from the board. We'll take council advice under advisement, and then your answer will come from the planning board.
Thank you.
Okay, Judy, again, thank you very much.
thank you. Going on to another public hearing.
Again, I need a motion to continue the public, I need a motion to continue the public
So
hearing
moved.
to November 2nd, 6:15.
Right.
moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take care.
Unanimous.
All right, I'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you
Thank you.
guys.
Yep.
Have a nice evening.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Surprising I have to ask for a second, but.
Well, what's interesting is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.